Hi.
Hello.
Having some minor technicalities here. There we go.
All right.
Afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. And I want to welcome everybody to today's edition of Good Grief, being hosted by our wonderful, wonderful ladies, Crazy Berrytown and Kim Possible 711. Good afternoon, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Doing well, doing well. How about you and Kim? How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I am still in vacation slash birthday mode.
I know that's right.
So all is well.
And a big happy belated birthday to you. Hope you had an awesome day, the days before and the days after, including today. Hope you have a great weekend this weekend and still celebrating.
Hmm. Yes, it began July 1 and it will continue through July 31st. So
Yeah.
there's still room for all manner of shenanigans, fun, laughter, etc., etc.
I love it. I love it. What's been the best part so far? What's of your
Hmm.
celebration? Anything significant or something you can say, okay, now that's a birthday. Yeah.
I wouldn't say there was anything specifically that was significant, but just making memories
Yeah.
with friends and family, because, things are going on in the world. And as this is good grief, you never know when things could take a shift. So I'm just
That's
being
true.
intentional about trying to spend time with people that are important to me. So that's what's been most great about it.
Yeah. And how's your dad doing?
He is doing well. So today is the end of week 4 of his
Wow.
radiation. Things are going well. Every Monday is Doctor's Day when my mother gets to talk to the doctor to see how things are going. So things are going as expected.
That's good.
So
Okay.
that's good.
Yeah,
That's
that's a good thing.
yeah,
How's your
yeah.
mom holding up? I know this is all, different for her and a different type of not responsibility. That sounds negative, I guess, but just
Hmm.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that by now she's kind of gotten into this flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just a new part of her daily routine. So she's not taking us up on any help as far as
Oh,
transporting him back and forth, but she's seems to be okay with it.
okay.
So as long
Yeah.
as she's
That's
all
good.
right, then I'm all right.
Wow. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
good. I'm glad to hear that. And of course, with her being okay and him coming along is definitely good for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm
All
digging the
these things
hair.
happen. You feel like, huh?
I'm digging the hair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is
I
that
was just telling
burgundy or
Esther,
pink?
it's pink. It is literally like a hot pink. It's so bright. It's obnoxious, and I love it. So- it's
It was
obnoxious,
interesting.
and I love it.
Yes, I know. So yesterday I got my hair rebraided and I had to go to somebody different because my
Oh,
braider is working full time now. So
oh,
she want this braider told us what kind of hair to buy. So I went and bought it and tried to buy something similar to what I had before. And when she opened the pack, I was like, oh, that looks really
really?
more pink than burgundy.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just kind of blend it in, like mix the
Uh-huh.
colors? And so I've got like splashes of it in here. You can't really see it like before.
Yeah, I see a little bit on the tips there. I see
Pink
something there.
than
Yeah,
burgundy to me,
yeah.
which I'm still cool with. So hey,
That's
we're
cute.
working.
Really cute. I love the braids. They look awesome.
Thank you. It's hot in the ATL, so I'm trying to be as low maintenance as possible.
I know that's right. For real. It's
Mhm.
blazing. Well, hello to the Rebel. Hey, twin.
Hey, Rebel.
TJ
Hey,
Stacy
everybody.
Bless, Monica L. Smith. Hello to you. And sending love and condolences to you, Joanna. We
Hmm.
are happy to see you, but I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. And
Hmm.
we're just sending you love and condolences. And hope that um, you are doing okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I said I've always said I wanted some color, and I saw I don't know if you all know Krish 11. She's a streamer here on Twitch, and she does she's like gaming, and then when there's like a new moon or a full moon, she'll do these moon rituals and stuff. But her thing is purple, and she has like this purple hair, and it's like I don't know if it's like sometimes she does braids, sometimes she does crochet, and I love the purple. And I said I want to get me some color, and then so I was like, well, I'm gonna keep it simple and just do like a soft color. And I was like, simple for what? Right, it's the summer, why go simple? So I said, I couldn't even find what I wanted in the beauty supply store. There's a ginormous Angie's Beauty on Memorial Drive, and they have the whole back of the store it's an old Kroger. That's how big it is, y'all. And it has just all hair, and they did not have the color that I wanted. So I had to get it on Amazon for the win. So I got my hot pink crochet.
Love it.
On Amazon.
Love it. When all else fails, Amazon will save the day.
It will. I didn't even know. So the girl who does my hair, she was like, well, we were in the store. She said, let's check Amazon. I'm like, for what? She's like, for the hair. I was like, oh.
Girl, that's where I've been getting all my other hair from. That's why I was like, I got hair at the house. Can I not use the hair I already bought from Amazon?
But then I should have thought about it, though, because I know a friend of mine, she did this whole like TikTok thing about these wigs that she bought from Amazon. So I should have thought about braid hair and crochet. Yes, we're getting poles and hair from Amazon, Rebel. Yes.
Poles, hair. It was Amazon Prime was what? Tuesday through yesterday?
Yeah.
So I broke down and Apple was a participant with Amazon Prime Day. Mm-hmm. So I broke down and got the AirPods. And they literally, I ordered it like, say 4:00 in the afternoon. And they were on my doorstep at 7 a.m. the next morning.
Lies. Oh my God. Yeah, they had a really good deal on. I don't wear those, but I know some people. Actually, a few of my friends texted, like a group of us, and said, hey, get on Amazon and get these. And when I looked at the price, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good savings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty decent deal. Stuff that I didn't need, but I could appreciate a good deal. I didn't order anything. I ordered stuff, but all of the robot vacuum, I already got one. An ice maker, I don't need it, but it was cute though. So they had a lot of good deals, but I just passed on a lot of stuff. I ordered a few things, stuff that I needed anyway, and I just waited. And now I can't even remember what I ordered. That's terrible. I did order some snacks because they had a really good deal on snacks. So I did order snacks because we're snacky around here, and Captain Boots is still in camp, and they had a really good deal on those big Lay's variety packs or something. It was like 30% off. So, and you get like 40 or something for like $18. It was crazy. So, I know I ordered that, but I don't remember what else. So anyway, let's see. Let me check the chat here. STL, how are you doing, love?
Now that you are a Texan.
I know.
I am doing.
How does it feel?
I am. It feels numb right now because I'm tired. But it feels good. It does feel good. It's good to be here. I love my space. I have a backyard that's full of trees and shrubs, and I plan to put all kind of flowers and stuff in there. So once I get it going, I'm really I'm enjoying just going out, getting that night breeze in the shade and feeling the breeze go across my skin and just sitting there and basking in it. So it's going really well.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. As you said in your stream, God has done a quick work because you went from just moving somebody else to moving yourself.
Absolutely. I was telling Crazy Berry Town, I brought my sister and my brother in love on Friday morning. We kind of went around to some places Friday night, didn't see anything. My nephew saw something online Friday night after we got back home, called on it Saturday morning, looked at it Saturday afternoon. I got on the plane Saturday evening, did the paperwork, and had a house. So It was a quick work. It was a quick work. It was really quick. Monica is, I'm gonna let you all field that one. Monica is asking for some advice because she is in a quandary right now and did lose her son to violence a few years back. So she states, my oldest son is in jail, and because I lost my son, I couldn't get a hold of my son in jail. So I was about to roll out to set it off. How do I, because of, actually, let me go ahead and put that up where everybody can see it potentially. Let's see. How do I, because of my baby boy dying, do I not make it an issue for my living children who they think you have a problem? But she always wants to know where they are. Basically, she has a panic when she doesn't know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I mean I can see, where you feel, some kind of way. And I personally, I would say, don't worry about what others think, but they're it's your child here. You're talking about your children. And I feel like, if it, I don't know. I don't mean, is it an issue? Like, do they feel, or does your son, or I don't know, do you feel like they feel like it's an issue? Because it might be how, you might feel that you're being a certain way, and it may not be received that way as, at all. Um, you're, I mean, I see nothing wrong with wanting to know and protect and be aware of everything, even adult children,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Kim, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, it's normal to feel how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And because of just the trauma of losing your son and then having another son in a space that you couldn't get to, it's not unusual for you to then be extra cautious or even concerned about your other children. So maybe even just articulating to them, look, because of this is why I feel this way. And this is why I would like your help in just letting me know where you
Right.
might be at any given point. I mean,
I think that's a
just,
great idea.
it doesn't have to be deep, but you could text me. You could just call and say, hey, Ma, I'm XYZ, or I'm going out of town, or whatever the situation may be,
Mhm.
but maybe help them understand why. Because again, people grieve differently. And because of whatever the trauma that is that occurs, then puts you on guard for other things. And so it's just a way of processing through. And if you can be honest with them about why you feel this way now, because that may not have been the case, prior to.
Right,
This
right.
has happened. This is what I'm going to need from y'all in order for me to be okay.
Hmm. And I think, like you said, articulating that, and and they are adults, I think they would get it. And I think what Kim just said really struck me is that, it may not have been that way before, but it is now, and rightfully so, and then you add to, I think we've talked about this before, you add to your own personal, the events in your life and experiences, just societal things, right? And I know many parents with
Mm-hmm.
any age of a child from young on up worry. We live in a society that just doesn't value certain people. We won't go there today and get all crazy political and whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
that adds another layer of worry as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes even subconsciously, like, people may not like articulate it, but they're watching the news, they're reading social media or whatever, and they're internalizing that and have this anxiety that they haven't even spoken. So you
Mm-hmm.
pair that with, those things that have happened to you, and your current situation, with your son being in jail, and then just the greater society and things that are happening to us as Black men and women. I mean, that anxiety is real, and I think anybody, particularly your children, would understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the society that we're in and watching the news, because I'm intentional about not watching it. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
a lot of the news I get is because of while I slumbered, slept, and slobbered,
Mhm.
Hmm.
or my mother has called and said that such and such has happened, or something comes across my news feed on social media.
Yeah.
Or I'm in like a couple of text groups that I'm in, somebody will post something. but I'm not actively watching the news on a regular basis
Right.
because it seems to me that the news is slanted in a way that continually stirs up the emotions around the trauma that we've all experienced prior to.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be very careful about just the stuff. One of the shows that I watch on HBO, P Valley, they've been very I kind of put
Ooh.
that with Rebel because she's like, girl, I couldn't take this last episode. I'm like, well, they're dealing with some very deep issues around depression and abuse and all of these things. And this last time they dealt with suicide, and I was just like, it was like I was in the show with this character.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's because that represents a larger population of folk walking around every day.
Yeah.
Feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, feeling this or that. And they were dealing with the whole, what was going, because they're still set in the pandemic when it was still, I guess, 2020 maybe.
Yeah.
So it's just seeing that, I've had to just kind of go, okay, I might have to push back for that for a minute because that's rough.
It was heavy. It was heavy. Yeah. Yeah. Monica said, said she's always nervous. And then MCP mentioned losing 2 children and then the one that's left feeling like maybe they're smothering, being overprotective. And, I've not experienced that, but I do know personally people in a similar position, not with losing 2 children, but they had 2 and lost 1 and feel that same way. So I do believe that is it's common, right? And it makes sense. It may not feel good to you, like you may feel just saying the word smother or being overprotective sometimes has like a negative connotation, and maybe you feel that way. But think about it though, right? Like, why wouldn't you feel that way when you've experienced a loss or multiple losses, and you still have, a child or children who are still here? So I just want to say, again, disclaimer, you all know we are not, at least clinical, psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever. But I do want to say though, with anything, but particularly this, is to be gentle to yourselves. However you feel that you are coming off, or how people might receive it or whatever, that's here nor there. You feel what you feel, right? If you feel like, you're nervous and you're overprotective or whatever words you want to use, that's how you feel. And I think that's okay. And I want you to be gentle and kind to yourselves, because again, my response to that is, why wouldn't you feel that way? I know I would. I only have 1, but if I did and I lost 1, I would probably feel and do the same things. And I think it's perfectly, not perfect, that's a terrible word to use, but I think it's a natural thing. And I don't think that people would see it as anything else, and even though to you might feel like it's a bad thing that you're feeling, but it's natural, and again, why wouldn't you feel that way at this point? Yeah, it does. It changes you.
When it talks about totally changing you, because it literally shifts your reality into a space that you have never walked through before. And you have to essentially learn how to now move forward without this person or these people walking alongside you. And that takes some time to learn how to do that. It's an adjustment. It's a process. We've talked many times about grief being a process, and it's not this straight line that, once you go from here to here, you can be all over the place, and you can feel like you're walking around like a zombie.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, Natty Dread, hello and welcome to you. Said, I have 3 grown male children and I am intentional about not going overboard with worry. Yeah, sometimes you have to tell yourself, right? Like you have to be intentional sometimes about not going there, whatever that there is for us as individuals. We all have our there. But you're right. I think the word there is intentional. And for some people it takes more than that, or more time to get there, right? But nevertheless, none of it is, I don't think, is bad or negative. If you feel that way, you just do. And you may have to be intentional in maybe reframing your thinking a little bit, or in doing it in a way that's comfortable for you. Maybe instead of, I'm not going to say not worrying, but instead of 8 texts, maybe make it 5, something like, I'm just saying, you may have to start now thinking, because if you're addressing it or you're thinking about it, maybe you do want to experience some kind of change, and it may have to be intentional. It may not just be something that just you wake up one day and, oh, now you're, back to pre-trauma. It may have to be something you work on. Yeah.
And what was it? MCP talked about feeling like people are tired of her grieving.
Yeah.
That
I
there's
feel
no
the same
expiration date on grief.
Yep.
And you have to grieve in a way that helps you to move forward. And that takes however long it takes. And so those that are there for the long haul are there for the long haul. Everybody's not going to understand, but there will be people that will.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to go this road at some point. And, the issue with African American mothers and just our history of being enslaved and having our children taken from us and killed. And now we're still in 2022 and we're still having these same dialogues and discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a mother, but I grieve for all that has has happened historically, just in my own bloodline. So not only are you grieving your loss of your children, but the children in your family that you may not even realize or recognize.
Right.
So it's a tough space to be in.
Yeah.
But
I was reading, you all know, I love me some Instagram grief groups.
yes.
And there was one post recently. It said things, or the things that grieving people want you to know. So they fielded like some responses from people and then compiled it into this list. And it was like 10 slides, right? And the majority of them were surrounding like time. Like one of them said, they're like, I will grieve my person. And then they put in parentheses people, because it might be more than one, forever. I love them forever. So the grief will be there forever. And so, in response to MCP 12, I feel the same way. I completely feel the same way. And you all know I don't give a dang. So, but I do get it. I get what you're saying. And I feel like, I think I told you all before, when I lost my mom, I posted a lot on Facebook, like a lot, like all the time. And then I just pulled back. Like one day I just blinked my eyes and I was like, they're sick of it. I'm sure they are. It could be my perception. But I just stopped posting, just because I felt like people were kind of over it. But I found it fascinating, though, that in that group of slides, like every other one was something, it was about time, like the timeline, or how people feel. They want people to know that this is how they feel, and it's not going away. And I just found that really interesting. So MCP 12, I say that to say, just here, I think in this space, we agree with you, and we probably experience that. But so many grievers feel that way, that people are like sick of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of it I do believe is us. Like I said, no one ever said, and honestly, here's the thing. On those posts that I was doing on Facebook, none of the comments ever really dropped off. I mean, I would get, I post about, I would get the most comments on Captain Boot videos. I do. Captain Boot's videos, I get the most. So let's put that out the way. But anything else, I would do like cooking videos, I would post funny dance videos, all of that. By far, I never have gotten more comments on any post that I've ever done on Facebook than on my grief post, which is amazing. And they never dropped off, but I just felt like, oh, they're just being, I talked myself out of it. Oh, they're just being nice to me. They have pity. They're having pity on me. They think I'm pathetic. So they're just going to write a little comment. So it wasn't that any comments dropped off. I think my thinking that they were tired of it, or people are tired of me grieving and talking about my mom all the time. I think a lot of it was me. Are some people that way? Do some people think, okay, or they do those pat responses we've talked about, they're in a better place, or everything happens for a reason, which I told you I want to strangle people when they say that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are those people out there, but the majority, I don't think they're thinking about us as grievers in that way. I really don't. I think we put it on ourselves. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember a year after my friend Lakita passed, because when the services happened, I didn't go to the cemetery because I couldn't.
Oh, right. I remember you said that.
And so the year anniversary, a group of us were going to go. And I remember an older woman at my church telling me, well, now, if you're going to go, you need to let this be that. You need to, so that you can just move on. And I was like, wait, what? Excuse me? And I said, ma'am, no disrespect, but you can't tell me how and for how long that I get to feel or hold this person in the way that I choose to do. It's taken me a year to get to this point of even going to the cemetery. And so it's going to take however long it takes for me. I mean, I remember my grandmother passed. I could not get out of the car at the cemetery for years, because to me, that was just such the final moment that I could not handle it. And so it took me years to get out of the car and physically walk up to the headstone.
Yeah.
So it takes time. And until people have gone through it, they don't even know what they're saying. They don't really understand. And so I think why your post resonated so much is because people don't know how to process it and don't know how to give voice to it. And here you are processing it publicly, giving voice, and people can glean from that. And where they couldn't speak, they gleaned from what you said.
Yeah.
And it gave them permission to be able to process in a way that they were feeling led to, but didn't know if it was okay to.
Right. I think you're right about that. Yeah.
So, I think society places on us these boundaries around grief, because as a society, we don't grieve well.
Right.
And we're uncomfortable with it. So we just try to shorten it as much as possible when matters of the heart can't be shortened.
Yeah.
They're unpredictable. Right. You just cannot regulate it.
Yeah. And matters of the heart are forever. I mean, a quote that I saw before, it says, the grief lasts as long as our love does, forever.
Yeah.
You don't stop loving. I feel like, I don't have any regrets. I feel like I love my mom, on her, no problem. I don't have any regrets, but sometimes I feel like when people die, like I just said, the love never goes away. For some people, it grows even more, and I feel like, I feel like that about my loss. Like, I feel like I love my mom even more, in her absence, because I appreciate, let me see, what's the word? I recognize her loss in everything. And so when I want to call her to ask her how to make gravy for the 1000th time, and she would take my call and, walk me through it over and over, and I'd burn it and then call her back. I miss those times. I miss her presence in my life in a myriad of ways. And because of that, and recognizing every little nook and cranny where she was in my life that makes me love her even more. Therefore, the grief is there too. I'm grieving that love that's not there, that's not in the flesh, right? So I agree. I think that we're gonna grieve, right? Like you said, there's no timeline. There's no timeline. There's no straight line. There's no expiration date on it, because there is no. That's the same for love. I mean, if you got a timeline on love, then I don't want it. I mean, I'm just saying. But it's the same again. Love and grief. I've said this 1,000 times. Where there is great love, there is grief. There's great grief. And it's sad, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. Monica Smith, let's see. I didn't go to my mother's funeral. I would not, and do not regret my choice. Yeah, I think you've mentioned that before. I remember the line about I pretend this chick was on vacation for years. Yeah, that's hard. That is really, really, really hard. MCP says, please keep Dana. Is it Dana or Dana in your prayers?
Dana.
Well, yeah, and you lost your mom at 23. Yeah, so I mean 23. I mean, that's young. My mom lost her mom at 24. No, 26. And I mean, we're just, as young women, as young people, we're just finding our way. And then to lose a parent, but your mom, I can imagine, or maybe I can't, but I see what you're saying, in that you just couldn't attend. Yeah, listen, I get it. I want to touch back a little bit on what you said. I don't want to talk about P Valley. That everybody has their thoughts and feelings about it, but I do. One of the things that I saw in that. And I was I was on Twitter when I was watching it live, and then all the next day, because I was so moved. I cried literally almost the whole episode.
I did too.
And then I watched it again with subtitles, because there were certain things I couldn't hear that Lil Murda was saying and whatever. So I needed to know exactly what he was saying. But one of the things that I read on Twitter about Teak, the guy who I don't know if any of you watch it. I don't want to give away spoilers. But,
yeah, we don't want to give it away.
Yeah, but you did say that there was suicide on the show, and they put a disclaimer, which gave me the worries when I started watching. I was like,
who is it gonna be? Oh my gosh,
right? But what somebody said that he didn't need to, he maybe did some things in his life or whatever, but prior to him going to prison, he needed therapy.
He did.
And the things that he experienced, his mother
as a child,
right? And so I just can't even imagine. And one of the things too on the Twitter, the P Valley Twitter, Ann Couture Hall, who's the writer producer, she put all these. There's like a ton of grief hotlines, suicide hotlines, because I can imagine, like you said, there's so many people that experience that. I can imagine the grief that was either ignited or reignited for people, seeing some of those flashbacks, seeing the scene about the suicide and so forth. But I was fascinated by the writing of that show and how they connected, on the social media, they connected the grief. It wasn't just the suicide hotline. It was, this is heavy shit, period. All of it. And whether whether it's a loss of a person or a loss of innocence, a loss of childhood, whatever, people are grieving. And I appreciate it so much, running over and over and over on the Twitters, the grief hotline, because I just feel like that is something we just don't deal with,
And I applaud her for that, because there's just this misnomer that these people, based on the nature of the show, it being centered around a strip club and all of that, they're doing what they're doing because they just don't know any better. But everybody has a story, which is why I watch anything, is to understand the story behind the story as to if it's written well, why somebody ended up from here to here.
Yeah.
What was the journey that got them there? And typically there's some trauma involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're peeling away this season. You know, they're peeling that away. And
they are.
I think that you're right. That story that backstory for all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not just on this show. This is everyday walking around life, which made me realize how much more it is important for me to continue to do what I'm called to do, which is helping people process through their trauma, because there's just so much. And I'm betting on there were people watching that had similar stories that to date have never even articulated.
I'm sure
some of the things that they've seen or experienced at home as children in their lives. I mean, even Mississippi's story. Who knew this chick came from the family she came from, living in the house she living in, and dealing with the stuff she's dealing with? I'm like, this is why you can't be fooled by what somebody lives in, what they drive, how much money they make. There's dysfunction everywhere.
Yeah. And I think, you know, and again, you know, what we've talked about the different types of grief. And I know, listen, I'm a college professor, y'all, so I look at stuff in a nerdy way. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know some people are watching P-Valley for the strippers. Listen, I know that, right? And they turn it off and that's like, oh, there's some cute TNA. I don't, right? I don't want that anyway.
I won't understand these people.
But, you know, whatever. And they do show a lot of pee, though, just sidebar. But anyway, coming back.
Graphic detail of certain things. I'm like, okay, that's too much. But okay.
Right, I know. But I look at things sometimes from this college professor brain, and I'm telling you, the layers of that writing, I get so excited about it because it's so much more. And I know people write it off. And honestly, even if they don't write it off, some of it's just not for everybody. I get that. Listen, Martin wasn't for everybody. Neither was The Cosby Show. But to address that, you know, even colorism, you know, she addressed that in a very subtle way, with
very subtle.
Oh my God. And there's
the line of the whole, not this episode before, where the mother says to the daughter when that situation happens with the ponytail, you know, now you've messed up the thing that makes her beautiful. And I was like, hold up, ma'am.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't actually say that her hair is what makes her beautiful, not her being who she is, not what she looks like.
How you raised her, what you've
how you raised her. Only her hair is what makes her beautiful.
And so, you know, and that's what I was saying, that grief, there's so much more to grief than a loss of a human life. And there is that, and that is huge, right? That is a big loss. But there's that grief of, you know, her, you know, Mississippi, like, you know, losing her family, you know, her family life and that lifestyle. And then now where she is looking, like, thinking, you know, I can imagine in my brain that, you know, she might look back and say, what would my life be if that didn't happen, if I didn't get put out, you know, if I didn't lose experience,
if I didn't make this choice that I made. As
and that's what I love about that show. And I can imagine, like you said, so many people identifying, again, maybe not with stripping, but identifying with someone losing someone to suicide, losing someone to mental illness, or trying to save them. That's what Lil Murda, oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
I know.
Just to experience.
Don't do it.
Right? I'm not. Go back. Yeah, okay.
I cried with you because I was like, no.
But again, I just think that she really has her thumb on the pulse of so many issues, with not just Black folks, but just people in general. But since the show is African American based mostly, right? I just really think that she has her thumb on the pulse, and I thought it was such a poignant thing to watch. And just reading the Twitters, just seeing what people are talking about people talking about how they had never, like, they experienced loss due to someone taking their life, and they never thought about it, and they put it in the back of their mind until this show, and they're getting help. People talking about how after the show they called the suicide hotline for themselves. But to read that and to see this trauma being talked about and addressed on social media as a result of this, it just shows me that all of us, right? We were talking about people, how they perceive us, and they're tired of us grieving or whatever. We all have something, right? And sometimes we don't know it, or we want to push it down. And sometimes, this is what I've learned also, is sometimes our grief conjures up the grief or the loss for someone else that they're not ready to deal with. So they stick their tongue out at us, right? And I think some of us might have experienced that. So again, MCP12 and anybody 812 and anybody else, when you get that, I think people are tired of me, or they just don't want to hear from me anymore. Some of it is our own perception, but some of it is like we said, it's society. But what I've learned, even just y'all, I know y'all think I'm crazy anyway, but y'all keep coming back, so I appreciate it. Maybe you're coming back for STL and Kim. That's what it is. But
no, I think they're coming here for you. The show, as Hal's shirt says on what his LLW, the whole damn show. You are the whole damn show.
But I think just that the last 2 episodes of P-Valley, it just shows me that so many of us, something I already knew, but even in young people, so many of us are dealing with some kind of trauma, loss, and grief, and in some cases all together. And I'm done with that. Yeah.
The whole adage around grief and trauma is you can have grief without trauma, but you cannot have trauma without grief.
Right. I remember we talked about that our very first week. Yeah.
But the bulk of our grief does unfortunately stem from trauma.
Yeah.
As African Americans, that's just the reality of the situation.
It's true. It is true.
We're grieving individually from within ourselves with whatever it is that we've lost, but then we're grieving as a collective, as a family. We're grieving as a community. We're grieving as a nation. We're grieving as a race. I mean, we're grieving lots of things.
Good grief.
And part of my training, when I did my trauma training, is we would look at these stories and these scenarios, and then we would go character by character. What is this person grieving? What have they lost? So it could have been a physical limb. It could have been their job. It could have been their position. It could have been, just interaction with other folks because of this thing that has now happened. And so I do the same exercise when I'm looking at stuff like P-Valley. I'm like, okay, so the murder is grieving this. He's lost this. I mean, and if I could really write it out, I could probably just come up with a whole.
Let's do it together. Yeah.
Then I'm looking at Big Teak, and I'm from day one when he got out of jail. I'm like, ooh, okay, so he got this going on. He got that going on. That night he had the meltdown, and he was like, I'm trying to understand why my mother even bothered to have us. Okay, I'm like, okay, that's piquing my interest. What's really going on with that? And then you find out in this next episode what that was all about. Yeah. So it's worth exploring, because I think as a culture, and I'm speaking from African American culture, we have not done a good job of really processing through these things. Yeah. And so she's taken this show and been able to layer it in there, because these are people. They might be actors living out a story, but these characters have a backstory. And when you understand the backstory, you recognize that this person might not be that different from me, or their trauma might not be that different from mine.
Right. That's why I think Twitter blew up like it did. I mean, Twitter was on fire. I mean, nuts. I couldn't even keep up. And I think it's because so many people identified, either for themselves or someone in their life.
Mhm.
I read on Twitter, someone said, I have a feeling someone in my life, I could never put my finger on it, but after watching this show, I'm going to lean in a little bit and ask some questions, but I feel like they're dealing with this, whatever.
Mhm.
They're kind of
Mhm.
showing themselves in the same way.
Mhm.
And they wanted to be able to, and had always wanted to support them, but didn't know how. But something in that character, they saw someone they know, and yeah, I think, I'm fascinated by the brain of Katori and all these writers, because I really think they're capturing something that is really pushed down in a
Yeah.
lot of people, and it's not, by choice. Some of it is our culture, right? We talk about that whole, okay, move on, and a lot of that is historical, you
Mhm.
know and
Yeah.
then
It's like
even
suck
more
it
so,
up, move on. Haven't you dealt with that
yeah,
long enough? Haven't you grieved about
yes,
that long enough? No. And if the truth be told, you got something you're not grieving about either. That's why you got the nerve to
right,
sit there and say that to
right,
me.
yes,
So I
exactly,
think, unfortunately or fortunately, media plays a very big role in exposing things that we normally may not never deal with. And so I know that there's a captive audience for P Valley, and then there's other people that have not heard it. It's people that don't even have HBO. So, or stars. So,
hmm
you know, it's not out there like it could be out there, but
yeah,
definitely and clearly she accomplished what she was intending to accomplish, because if Twitter blew up like it did, then there's clearly means there's more conversation to be had
yeah,
about it,
yeah,
because people are really not dealing with it, or it just shed some light. And just even when I was a prison chaplain, I learned how to
Ooh.
just listen,
hmm
and people would tell me their trauma, and I'd be the first person to have ever heard it.
wow,
And they'd say, I've never said this, I've never spoken this out loud. And I mean, when
mm,
I could write a bunch of books just
I'm
about
sure,
the stories of these women and what they went through as
mm.
children.
I can only
Talked about the
imagine what you
prison
heard.
system this morning, but 85% of all women that are incarcerated have been physically or sexually abused.
Mm, 85%.
85%. Because when
Wow.
you come into the system, you go through diagnostics. And in diagnostics, it's a series of questionnaires and assessments,
Mm,
physical and mental evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. And then based on your responses, they
mm,
build the data set, which they use for good or evil. And then they place you where they think you ought to go. And then
yeah.
you're also placed, if you have what they deem as some mental challenges, you are put on the
Mhm.
mental health caseload at level 1, 2, 3, or 4. 3 or
Wow.
4, you're put into essentially an asylum and you're medicated. And the sadness about that is if you're just medicated while you're in prison, that means you don't ever deal with whatever has happened. You don't ever get any help for what happened. And when you're released, then what? I mean, what help? How are you releasing them back out?
Right.
Because if anything, now that's just further suppression, because the process of even getting arrested, booked, going to jail, being sentenced, convicted, and then going to prison is traumatic in and of itself,
Right.
because you're snatched from your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that whole prison thing is a whole discussion all by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Not your average guy. It's not that unbelievable. You're right. I mean, the more we, you know, are in tune with other people and their stories and things that we just know ourselves. I mean, that number was a little bit breathtaking to me, but stepping back a little bit, you're right. I mean, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's sad though. It is sad. I can't even imagine the stories that you've heard. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you
that's
think about, like
why.
you were saying, about being released back into, released into society without the help. Like that's what I was saying about Teak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
Because he was
trauma.
released back out without having ever, because just because you have a mental health the mental health person in prison is not there to counsel or give you therapy. They are there to manage behavior and be a triage if you begin to act out.
Right.
They're there to try to get you back down to a place and make sure you're taking your medications. Because I've witnessed people come in and they literally are walking around like a zombie because they're medicated. And then they decide, I don't want to be medicated. I need to deal with this before I leave because I'm going back into the same environment that essentially created me, that caused me to do what I did to come in here.
To get
so
here,
if I
right?
want to do something different, then I have to not be medicated because I don't feel anything. I'm numb. And this one girl, she literally was like, I mean, when I met her, she sat on that sofa emotionless.
Wow.
She's like, I want to cry and I can't because I'm medicated. I mean, at that point, she was taking like 2 different things. And she was like, I really need you to help me because I don't want to go back out the way I came in here. And she would go through a composition book 2 or 3 a week because I would give her composition books to just write out and process through her own stuff because she wasn't getting that in the prison system. And she got off the medication. Then she was able to cry and process the grief and the trauma as to why she was on drugs and why, because she was in there for some kind of DUI situation. Granted, she had done a bunch more stuff, but that's the one thing she got caught for.
Right.
And because she didn't show up in court.
Got a little frozen action there.
Yes.
All right. We'll wait for her to come back. You're right. Not your average guy. Medication is rarely the answer. It does seem in some cases to be a quick fix. I don't know how they decide to do that, but you're right. It is rarely the answer for many people. And like what Kim was just saying, the person that she was talking about, they were off the medication, then she was able to feel and deal with, her emotions and, hopefully receive the help that she needed before she was, released. So, yeah, I think we're all frozen. All right. Yeah, you're right. A Band-Aid of sorts. Let's see. I'm looking at my phone. I'm still moving. My lips are moving. Okay, so yeah, Rebel said not on her and just Kim. So yeah, I think we all in many ways, have loss, and that's why we're here, to talk about grief. But what again is something that we don't always think about is that, at all levels, there's people are dealing with something. And sometimes it's, it's that loss. It is again, and there's the different types of losses too. And I think that's what has been so fascinating about watching P-Valley. I'm back on there again. I'm gonna get off of P-Valley, is because they share and talk about these backstories and the loss, not necessarily a loss of life. In some cases it is, but just a loss that has then created this domino effect of other things, which I think ultimately was caused by grief, just the grief of that loss. So, yeah, I think we are always going to, experience grief. Again, where there's great love, is great grief when we lose someone. And I think that we have to recognize that. And I think we have to do what is best for us and not think about, what other people think. This is why, I say I'll repeat things over and over again because we get new folks coming in and stuff. This is why I think it's important to have your grief crew. I've talked about that. People that you can count on to receive you, when you want to talk or when you just want to call someone and just cry.
Yes.
Or you want to text someone and, I texted a friend of mine recently and I just said I miss her, and she knew what I was talking about. She sent me a little heart. That's all I needed. That was it. She didn't have to call me. She asked, "Do you do it? You want to talk?" No, I just wanted to say that. So find your grief crew. So that you can be received in your feelings and accepted, and know that. Because that's the other thing too, again, is some of us are perceiving or thinking that people are tired of us, but they may not really be. But with your grief crew, for sure how these people feel, right? And for sure you can go to them and talk to them, cry, and then hang up, send a text, whatever. Like I said, my little grief crew, we just send each other a little heart every now and then. We know what it means. We don't have to say anything. We just, it's just, I'm thinking of you, or it might be I'm having a moment, and then they'll send a heart back. Sometimes we'll say a little something, you good, something like that. And we'll all send thumbs up or something, and we'll go on about our day, and we'll text in another week or so, or maybe the next day or whatever. But it's important to surround yourself with people who get you, and who will accept you, and it, because we need that. The grief hotline is there. We have that. We have, therapy, therapists, group or individual. We have that. Absolutely. We have, help maybe in our religious centers, churches and mosques and so forth. But that every day, grief doesn't stop until it's the time we have our appointment, it's like, okay, well, now I'm leaving. The appointment's over. I'll turn my grief off. See you next week or in 2 weeks or whatever. It's every day, 24/7, 365, right? And we need that support. So you all make sure that you're working on your grief crew. If you don't have one, or have some people in your crew, whisper me or send me an IG, and I'll send you my phone number, and we can be each other, part of our grief crew. Kim, you're back.
Listen.
What happened?
The power went out. The lights went out and just came right back on. But then, of course, that reset all my internet and everything. And I'm like, Lord Jesus. The little man was outside cutting the grass. So I'm like, did you run over something?
That little man.
I'm sorry.
And I just heard it thundering a little while ago. So I don't know. I don't see rain on my forecast, but I heard thunder like about 5 minutes ago. So, yes, so not your average guy. You're right. Uh-oh. It's a little choppy there. Not your average guy said loss doesn't always have to be death related. Absolutely. We've talked about that. How the loss, there's so many things, loss of jobs, physical abilities, due to illness or accidents and things like that. Lifestyle. We've talked about grief during COVID, not because of losing someone, but just the change, the changes. That lockdown really jacked a lot of people up. For me, it was wonderful. Loved it. I did. But for a lot of people, it was rough, right? And there was a sort of a sense of grief.
Rough.
It is. Yeah. So not your average guy. You are absolutely right. And thank you for that reminder. Grief is not always related, or the loss is not always, related to a death. There's so many things that, that cause us to grieve, so many different types of loss. And that's something also too that, some people don't recognize until they maybe get help, or they come here and we talk about it. They don't realize what's wrong with them. What am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? It's grief. And then they'll say, well, I didn't lose, nobody died. Well, it's something else maybe. Oh, I lost my job, or, I had to change jobs because of my disability, or I have a friend right now who's dealing with losing their eyesight due to a different illness. And that is really, they're my age. And they're really just down and out about, devastated, right? So that, there's grief there, So yeah, we're in a good place here, meaning in good grief. And as always, thank you to Spiritual Thought Leader for this space, because it helps all of us give voice to things that, again, that we think maybe others won't hear. And sometimes it's not that they won't hear. It's just you want to be understood too. You know, people can listen and be like, all right, you done? Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. But to come to a place and be with people who understand, I think is important. So I'm glad that we're all here today and we have this space here in Good Grief. So I thought this was great chat today, and I hope that all of you found something that you can take away today as we go through the weekend. Hey, Grace Softly, welcome. COVID was a you're right. That's it was a mofo. It was, yeah. And still, like someone said, it still is. Yeah, it's and there's so many layers. You know, we could just have a whole stream on that and just talk about the losses there. You know, and in terms of, again, just lifestyle, jobs, you know, the way things were, you know, air quotes. So yeah, it's been hard for many people, many people. It's been very hard to deal with that and to make those adjustments. And for some of us, in my case, like I lost my brother very early on, very early, you know, May 2020. Everybody was still like, what is COVID? Oh my gosh, we've got to, we got bodies, lined up in a truck, and, we got to cremate everybody, and we can't have funerals. And, it was still all kind of just not clear. And so many of us are dealing with that. So I still, I grieve that the loss of my brother, but mostly because, it's his presence, him not being here. But what stung and sort of got me even more was just not being able to have a service or anything like that. And people are like, well, you could do Zoom, and, but my sister-in-law chose not to do that. And that was at the time where they recommended you cremate that person. And so to not have, not to see him or have a service, or anything like that was really hard. And many of us are still dealing with that, even in 2022, right? So we are really blessed to have this here because, as I just said, we have so much going on, right? And we need this space. We do. We need it. And I thank you, Spiritual Thought Leader, for this. Dendar, we appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And thank you, Not Your Average Guy. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. All right, so do we want to wrap this up? Kim, you're back, so I think I see you moving. So
yes, I'm
is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll just echo what you said. This is a great space that STL has allowed us to cultivate into a place people can truly share their heart and hopefully receive support, encouragement, and healing as a result of what we're doing here. So thanks to everyone who comes on a regular basis. Thanks to those who just stop by. Thanks for those who are just standing in the gap for somebody else. Because as we've said, all of us at some point will go this route of having to experience grief. So whether you're experiencing grief right now or standing alongside someone else that is, we appreciate your time and your attendance here with us, and we don't take it for granted. So thank you again, STL, for offering your stream for us to be here and just supporting us as we are trying to support others. So we hope that everybody has a great weekend. We'll be in the Discord after this. Yeah. So if anybody wants to stop by and physically give voice to anything that they may be feeling or want to share, we will be there for you right after the stream. So be blessed to have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, I'll be there in the Discord for a few minutes. I have some errands to run and then another meeting in a little while, but I'll be there for a few minutes on the front end. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. As always, find the joy in something today and every day, because you're worth it and you deserve it.